Hey, shalom everyone, I'm back with a second video on Hanukkah. I've been thinking a lot about Hanukkah lately since making that video. I've decorated for Hanukkah. I went on YouTube and watched videos about Hanukkah. I've been reading about Hanukkah. My wife's been shopping for Hanukkah. I'm going to my daughter's school here in the near future and talk to her class about Hanukkah. So Hanukkah's been on the brain. Excuse me. So, what is the main message of Hanukkah? Is it the miracle? The oil and the lamp and the restoration of the temple? Is it the presents? That's part of it. That's part of it. But there's a bigger picture, a bigger aspect of Hanukkah that's not usually covered. And that is the subject of assimilation. Just like the Borg Collective, what's their job? To assimilate. Resistance is futile. You will be assimilated. And the Greco-Syrians were just like the Borg. They were trying to, to assimilate the Jewish people into their culture by getting them to not keep the Torah, to not keep their religion, not keep their faith, not to keep the commandments. And, there was some perks about being a Greco-Syrian, it was a posh lifestyle, could be a posh lifestyle. Culturally, it was a very vibrant and lively culture. And, of course, some of the Jews felt left out from their Greco-Syrian friends because, they didn't have what the Greco-Syrians have. They weren't allowed to do what the Greco-Syrians did, and they were different. They were, pointed out like a sore thumb. Now, is it because they look drastically different? Well, sometimes if they wore the prescribed clothes of Torah, but if they just dressed in a toga, you couldn't really tell them apart. When you could tell a Greco-Syrian from a Hebrew apart, usually, is whenever they got together to play games. Back then, you didn't put on a jersey and a jockstrap. Back then, you performed the Olympics, you performed, the sports in the nude. So it was easy to tell the difference between a Greco-Syrian and a Hebrew, a Jew. One was circumcised, one wasn't. And this peer pressure to assimilate was so great that some Jews went through the painful process of reversing their circumcision. You're like, how in the world did they do that? Well, they took their foreskin and over a period of time they stretched it out again. To where they would look more like their Greco-Syrian counterparts. There was such a force by the Greco-Syrians to try to assimilate the Jews and to rip them apart from their faith and their religion that there was an attempt to sacrifice a pig and an unclean, unkosher animal to pervert and profane the altar of the Lord. And the Maccabees, or the Hasmoneans, who were the priests at the temple of that time, said, no, not on our watch. Well, some trouble ensued, and there became a war between the Greco-Syrians and the Maccabees. In the process, the temple was captured, ransacked. At one point, Antiochus Epiphanes, which means Antiochus, I'm God in the flesh. I'm Epiphanes, I'm God incarnate. He put up a statue of Zeus and slapped his face on it, saying it was him and that he was God and to worship him. And, so it was a fight to keep one's Hebraic, Jewish, cultural, and religious identity, not to assimilate and to blend into the fabric and become, one with the pagan culture that was around them. And even today, we have the same problem. In the Brit Chadasha tells us, do not be conformed to this world. Don't let the world press you into its cookie-cutter mold, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, and present your bodies as a living sacrifice unto God, holy and acceptable. We are a peculiar people. We are a royal priesthood. Which means we're different. We're supposed to be different. We're holy, which means we're set apart. We're set apart and set aside for a specific reason, specific calling, and a specific purpose. And we have to be holy, set apart to be clean, and to be ready for that use. And if you're assimilated, you can't be. And where has assimilation gotten us today? It's gotten us that we've lost the tribes. I mean, technically they're not really lost, but the tribe of Judah that went off into Babylonian captivity eventually returned, and that's who we consider the Jewish people today. But the other 10 tribes, they were put off into Assyrian captivity, eventually assimilated into the peoples around them, and we don't know where some of them are. Some of them don't even know who they are anymore. They've assimilated, and therefore the 10 tribes have been lost. But slowly, due to prophecy and even due to science and genetics, due to archaeology and science, a lot of these tribes are popping up, and we're discovering, where Manasseh is, and where Ephraim is, and where Gad is, and where Asher is, and so these tribes are slowly starting to come out of the woodwork, and we're finding out who they are. So, my rabbi, Rav Yoshi Yahu ben Shofar, he says around this time he gets that Maccabean spirit. What does he mean about the Maccabean spirit? Well, he's proud to be a Torah observant believer in Messiah Yeshua, and he's going to be loud and proud about who he is and about his heritage. And I agree with him. I'm not going to be assimilated. I don't want to be like the nations. I don't want to be like the other peoples. I want to be who God wants me to be, who He has made me and has called me to be, and to fulfill His calling and His purpose, His universal will for my life, which is to follow the Torah, and the individual will or the calling He's placed upon my life to be a rabbi, to be a Torah teacher, for the honor and glory of His name. And so we have to fight hard against assimilation. The society that we're exiled into, the Western world, United States and Canada, is a Judeo-Christian nation, or was at least, and so it's more geared towards a Christian audience. A lot of people get Sundays off. They celebrate, Christmas and Easter and everything, and Judaism is just foreign, and so we have to fight to get our days off of work so we can celebrate the high holy days as God commanded us to, and we have to really scour. Especially if we don't live in a Jewish community, we have to scour the grocery stores to make sure the food that we buy is kosher. We have to thank God for the internet, because sometimes that's the only tool and resource we have to where we can send away and buy kippas and tzitzit and talits and the things that we need to remain Jewish, to remain Torah observant, to walk in the footsteps of Yeshua our Messiah by walking and following the Torah. But as David said, I will not sacrifice something to the Lord that costs me nothing. You got to be willing to pay for who you are, to pay to be for who you are. Sometimes that means persecution. Sometimes it means you got to pay out of your wallet to get the things that you need. But I think that is one of the main messages and thrusts of Hanukkah and of the book of Maccabees, is to buck and fight against assimilation and be that set apart, called out, holy people that God wants us to be. We'll catch you next time. Shalom and Shavuot Tov. Mishbocha. Bye.